Okay, this is going to be brief. Yes, I know you've heard that from me before, but this time I actually mean it. So this is about my pet peeve. This morning I'm watching Morning Joe, and the question comes up about, well, can Donald Trump stave off the execution on his properties of the judgment obtained in New York by the Attorney General? And to answer that question, Morning Joe puts on a criminal defense lawyer to talk about bankruptcy law. So they ask her this, and she gives this long, involved answer talking about all kinds of things that have nothing to do with anything, instead of giving the simple, straightforward answer that anybody who took bankruptcy in law school, or has practiced for 5 minutes, or who bothered to take up Google and ask Google the question, the answer is real simple. You cannot discharge in bankruptcy a fine or penalty payable to a government entity, which is precisely what this is, which means filing in bankruptcy would have no effect whatsoever. End of story. And yet, I watched program after program where people saying, but what about if he files bankruptcy? Well, that could cause into question, whether there's other people who have ownership interest in the property, how would this look politically? And no one's saying the obvious answer, which anybody who knows anything about bankruptcy, which should be every lawyer, but certainly does not include a criminal defense lawyer. Why are they at least going to put a bankruptcy lawyer on? You can't find a bankruptcy lawyer in this country where there are 5 billion bankruptcy lawyers, and that's an exact figure because I looked it up. They couldn't find one to go on the show and say, well, you know what? It's a fine payable to a government entity, and therefore it's not dischargeable in bankruptcy, so his filing in bankruptcy would have no effect whatsoever. Why can't they do that? Yeah, and it's put in language you people understand. I know most of you are actually brain surgeons. And imagine how you would feel if you're sitting there watching TV and they put a pediatrician on to talk about brain surgery, and the pediatrician gets the fundamentals of brain surgery all wrong. How would you feel? Now do you see where I'm coming from? I'm the only podcast, or whatever this is, that has an audience which consists almost entirely of brain surgeons.